Hello everyone, welcome to another how-to episode. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do an eye splice in Dyneema. Now I'm going to show you how to do an eye splice the easy way and then the proper way. This here is SK78, it's a class 2 fiber, and the one we're going to be using is 6mm. This has a breaking strength of 8,700 pounds, so this is incredibly strong. What you need to do for a class 2 fiber is you need to take whatever your diameter is and you're going to multiply it by 72. In our case, we have a 6mm rope, so when you multiply that by 72 you get 432 millimeters. This is how much you're going to bury for a class 2 eye splice. So you can see that is a significant amount. Unless you have a metric tape measure, you need to get this into inches. So to convert from millimeters to inches, it's very simple. You're going to divide by 25.4, which gives you 17 inches. So what you need to do is bury 17 inches. The first thing, the way that this stuff works, it's pretty much a Chinese finger trap. Like if you push on it a little, the weave opens up and inside is completely hollow, so you can simply push something in there and then when it tightens back down, it's gonna pinch it and hold it and you're done. It's very easy in that sense to actually splice this stuff. Now the problem with it is it's very slippery. If you bury a whole lot, it can actually still slip out. So let's start the actual splicing. What you need to splice is simple. A set of fids. Now a fid, there's a whole bunch of different styles. I personally prefer this one. It's made by Samson. It's a very simple fid. It's simply a solid cone and then there's a little hole in the back that you stuff your line into, and that's it. This you can feed through things. If you need to push it through a lot, you can just tape this on to help secure it. It's very simple, and then you take a pusher and you push it in with this. All the pressure will hold the rope in so it doesn't slide out, and you just push this through things. It's very, very simple to use. So this is actually all you need as far as tools go. Well, this and a knife and a tape measure. That's all you need to build an entire setup of synthetic standing rigging. It's very, very simple to work with this stuff. So let's start. You want to do the basic and easiest of eye splices. We're talking the Longbury eye splice. And a Longbury eye splice is very simple. You're simply going to make an eye and then bury this into the other part. Just going to open it up and you just insert the fid. You're just going to go between the weave, and it's 12 strands that are wrapped around nothing. So the inside is hollow, so you can very easily push a fid through it. Now, unlike class 1 rope where you should use the fid that's appropriately sized for it, since the fid measurements don't matter, I like to use a larger fid simply because I can fit the line into the back of the fid. It just makes it simpler. So I'm just going to push the fid in really far here, all the way in. Push the weave onto the fid will open up. And then when you get pretty much a full fid length in, and you're kind of running out of room, I like to have it pop out the side, and I can always bury it back in. I like to think of it as a dolphin swimming through the water. Like imagine this is ocean and this is sky. The dolphin pops out and goes back in, and it's swimming along the surface. Same thing. You pop the fid in, you push it through, it comes out. You pull everything out, you go back in, you push it through, and you can do really long lengths that way. So we have the line looped through, you have the fid popping out the other side. You're going to take your pusher, and I just push it into the side here. And it's just to create enough pressure so that the rope doesn't slip out. And you're just going to push it through until it pops out the other side. Okay. And then an interesting thing, when you bunch up the weave, it's actually going to get shorter. And then when you elongate it, braid it back out, you'll see that it stretches out. So this is called a Longbury splice. Now if you're going to actually do the whole thing, you then do like the dolphin, and you push this back in and bury it all the way to the end. We're not going to do that because I'm going to show you guys the better splice. This is the easy way, but it's not the good way. Now, the reason this sort of works is if you have tension on the line, so the line's under load, it's under tension, it's like a Chinese finger trap, and it pinches down on the buried part, and it won't budge. Like, it's really stuck. That's great as long as it's under load. You take the load off, and the line kind of bunches up and gets a little bigger, and it's not gripping it as easily, and it just slides right out of there. So what some people talk about to reinforce this and make it a little safer is they'll actually bury stitching through it, and you'll sew all the way through the whole thing. And the idea is the line's running like this, and you have this thread crisscrossing it and locking it in. Now, that's great because it'll hold it while it's not under tension, but the problem is your strength is actually coming from thread, not from Dyneema. So I don't know if your thread's going to have a breaking strength of 8,700 pounds like this is. So is that something you really want to run the risk on? So you can see how easily it comes apart, which is why I don't ever use this splice, because it's very weak. The splice I like to use is called a möbius brummel locking splice. So all it's doing is locking the splice through twice. So you just create this pattern, and then the tail gets buried. That's all you're doing. To do the splice, you still need the same amount buried, so you just need to know that this is the amount of tail that you need to bury in there. We're just going to open up the line, and you're just going to push it straight through. You're not doing a bury on this, you're just pushing it right on through. And since it's short, you don't really need the pusher, because if it comes out like that, it doesn't matter, because you can just grab it and pull. So that's your first one. Now you need to do the second one. So if you're working with a short line, you can very easily do the same thing and take this line and pass it through this line. And that's easy. You're done. You have your lock created. And then you simply bury the tail and everything is hunky-dory. But what if you're working in a case like this where you have all of that, and you don't want to have to pass everything from this very end through the other line? What do you do in that case? Well, there's a trick. You have the line. This is going to be the eye splice. This is going to be the tail that gets buried. So what you're going to do is, imagine the splice is going to go here. You're just going to open this guy up, and you're going to push one fid through the normal way. And this is another reason why I like these fids. The ends are cut at an angle, so you can easily put two fids together. So you're going to slide them through until they're in the middle, and then you're going to force both fids through in the middle. And all you're doing is you're opening up the hole and making it much bigger for the step that's going to follow. So you can twist it up and down. Now you've created a giant gaping hole. The line starts here, runs up, runs through itself, and then comes out, and you have this big hole here. You're going to pass this part through itself again. So you're going to have this shape. So it's going to go up, through, up, and down again. So it looks kind of like a clover leaf, or half of a clover leaf. So you're going to pull it through all the way until it flips on itself, and you get kind of a weird twist to it. And the reason you want that twist is because the very next step is you're going to push the whole loop through this. And if you don't have that twist, then you're going to end up with the twist in the final splice. Where if you preload the twist comes right out. And there you have a locking splice. So this is a möbius brummel splice. And you can see the line comes through and then goes through itself, and this one pierces through and then wraps around. So it's locking together. This part cannot come undone even without burying the tail. Like it's fixed and it's strong. And if I pull on the wrong side, this little tail here, the worst that's going to happen is the eye splice is going to close on itself. It's not going anywhere. It can't go. So this is a very strong splice, and this is actually the splice I do at the end of stays for synthetic standing rigging. That is how strong this splice is. So you have this nice long section here and a tail that needs to get buried. So what you're going to do is you'll pull the tail back, and then right at the base you're going to open it up and slip the fit in. Okay, so there we're pretty much coming to the end of the fid. So we'll pop out, and I'll load the tail onto the end here of the fid. And one thing you'll notice, I'm not using any tape anywhere. No pens, no marks, nothing. And that's simply because I've got a lot of practice with this. If you're starting, you'll want to tape the end of this, and you're going to want to mark where your tail starts, where your eyes go, everything. You'll put little pen marks. It'll make your life easier. But once you get the hang of it, you just don't need to do that anymore. So we push it through, we feed it back, and you can see that the tail is about to disappear back into the weave. If you want a sort of strong splice but don't really care about strength, you can leave it with this blunt end at the end of the tail. This is actually going to be the weak point. So your weak point isn't going to be the splice, it's going to be somewhere in here where this end comes inside. And what's going to happen is, just as you see here, it's very large and then it's a quick drop down to something small. That's going to create stresses where the fibers have to change drastically, and that's going to be your breaking point. So if it's something that isn't really going to need 8,700 pounds, you can save yourself a lot of time and not taper this. But if you want to do it properly, you're going to be tapering. What you're going to do is you're going to do some basic math. So you know you have 12 strands. You need to cut off 11 of them. If you cut off 11 strands, you're going to have one strand that's full length of, the full length, and that'll be strand 12. Strand 11 will be shorter, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way back to the bottom. If you're doing standing rigging, this has to be absolutely exact, and what you're going to do is you're actually going to count all the fibers all the way up to the top, and then divide. That way you know exactly every fourth or every fifth fiber you're going to pull it out and cut it off. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. To calculate the taper that you need to go from here where you're going to have 12 strands to here where you're only going to have one strand, what you need to do is count how many fibers or how many strands there are all the way up. Now it's 12 strands, so you're not going to count each one because that'd be a whole bunch. What you're going to do is you're just going to follow a line and count each diagonal one that's running in that same line, and then divide that by 12. So in our case we have 36, we divide that by 12, that tells us every third strand we're going to pull it out, cut it off, and that'll give us the taper that we need. So we're going to start down here, so this is our bottom one, and we're just going to pull it out, and then it'll get cut off. And then we're going to go from there, 1, 2, 3. Now real quickly you're going to find that you're going to be running out of strands in an even line because you've pulled them all out. So you're going to have to start taking the ones that are next to them or close or just in that general area. But you'll have them all set out here, evenly spaced, so you can see that the next one's going to come pretty much from this area. this is going to be the longest one, and then the rest get cut off at their respective locations. So to cut Dyneema, you don't want to do a hot knife and just melt it, because what's going to happen is you're going to create all these really sharp spots in it. So you want to take a sharp knife, bend it over the blade, and just slice it off. And it takes some effort, but it will cut. So one of the arguments against synthetic standing rigging is if you piss someone off, they can come to your boat and cut your rigging off with a knife. It's like, yeah, they can also take a hacksaw and cut your standing rigging. It's not easy to cut because it's synthetic. It's still really hard to cut. So here you have a properly tapered tail. You start off with 12 strands, you end up with just one. So at this point you can take out your pin, and you're just going to milk the line back into the housing, or the casing. And the end disappears, and if you did it properly, what you're going to have is a nice smooth taper where you can't really feel where one line stops and the next one starts. So it just tapers down to absolutely nothing, and this is the strongest type of eye splice you can do in Dyneema. This one will not come unslipped. It won't just slip apart or any issues like that. It's rock solid. You do not need to put stitching through to help secure it in case it comes loose while it's not under load, because it cannot come loose because of the lock that happens right here in the splice. So this is done. You never have to worry about this. It can take the full load that you want to put on it of 8,700 pounds, because that is the breaking strength of this line, and with the splice it is just as strong as it was. So this is the way to properly splice Dyneema. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create an eye splice in Dyneema. Let us know what your favorite use for an eye splice is down in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to our channel, it really helps the channel grow, and it helps us bring more videos like this to you guys and sailors all over the place. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
And if you'd like to follow our journey in real time on a map, receive postcards from our ports of call, and message us directly to the boat, you can go ahead and become a patron using the link in the description down below.